Britt here. This is how abortion trauma hijacks your relationship with your body. I used to think I just had a problem with food, or that I hated my body because of what culture taught me. I always wanted to be skinnier and bought into the "you can never be too skinny or too rich" phrase I heard in California so much. But then one night it hit me. I wasn't just trying to get skinny, I was trying to disappear. And what I've come to realize after years of silence, years of shame, and years of secret spiraling down is that my eating disorder wasn't about calories or control. It was grief. It was trauma I had buried so deep it started showing up on my plate, in my mirror, and how I treated myself every single day. And the hardest part, I didn't even realize it was connected to the abortion. So if your relationship with your body feels complicated, if you've ever swung between control and chaos, obsession and shame, if you've ever punished yourself and called it discipline, you're not broken and you're not the only one. And this video might help you understand why your body has felt like the enemy and how healing doesn't start with a diet. Let's face it, the first 3 letters in that word are die. It starts with the truth. So stick with me. We're going there. And for a long time, I just thought I had body image issues. I thought I was just too controlling, too focused, too sensitive, too vain maybe. And I blamed the media, the magazines, childhood comments, the mirror, anything I could rationally explain. I grew up in a California suburb. Beautiful childhood. For the most part, it was just idyllic. However, I remember comments from my beautiful, wonderful mother who I adore that helped tip me off where some of that perfectionism I almost died over came from. I remember watching movies with Sophia Loren, at the time, one of the iconic beauties of the world, like Marilyn Monroe. And we'd be watching this beautiful movie with this amazing woman, and she'd say, "Oh, looks like Sophia's gained a few pounds." And I remember just thinking, oh my goodness. Or when Liz Taylor was going through her ups and downs and battles with her weight, I don't know. But as a child, it affected me. And I thought, how cruel, how terrible. But obviously, there was a voice inside behind that, how terrible, how cruel, to make comments like that about somebody you don't even know. There was obviously a voice that decided I needed to live up to that kind of standard. And after blaming the media and childhood comments and anything I can explain, as I mentioned, what I couldn't explain was why I was so angry at my beautiful body. Because I believe God gave all of us beautiful bodies. They all look different, but it wasn't my body's fault that I had all this anger to it, or so I thought. Why did I feel so uncomfortable in it? As a child, boy, we played tag until the sun went down. Our parents dragged us in while I was running everywhere, fit, gymnastics, track, horseback riding, you name it. I never gave my body a second thought. I loved being able to be so healthy and participate with the other kids, and it didn't occur to me it was maybe the wrong shape or something of that effect. I couldn't figure out why I felt so uncomfortable in it and why food made me feel safe one day and dirty the next. Some days I'd restrict everything, like I was trying to earn the right to feel in control again. I'd literally have a half an apple for the whole day. Other days I'd binge in secret, punishing myself the whole time. And after, the shame was unbearable, like I'd failed again. It's also fostered the isolation that I started to keep myself in after the abortion. It wasn't until years later that I finally stopped and asked, what if this isn't about food at all? And it hit me. All of this obsession, the shame, the exhaustion, it started after my first abortion. And that's the part I never connected, because no one talks about this. No one warned you that your grief might show up in your relationship with your body. No one, in fact, we're taught there's nothing to grieve. There was no problem. This was tissue. It was an issue that has been taken care of, right? Medically. No one says, hey, you might carry the weight of that decision in your bones, not just your heart. So I didn't see it. I just kept calling it discipline, or I needed to be that size dress, or I called it failure, or hormones, or stress. But deep down, I was grieving, and I couldn't even acknowledge it. My body became the only place that grief had permission to live. It didn't happen all at once. I didn't wake up one day and think, I hate my body. It was more like a quiet unraveling. At first, I just wanted to clean up my eating. I started skipping meals, not drastically, just enough to feel like I had control again, right? And I told myself I was being healthy, disciplined, strong. But deep down, I wasn't eating because I was punishing myself in a self-imposed prison for an act I was told wasn't a crime, because my body was the reminder of what I had done, of what had been lost, and I didn't want to feel connected to it anymore. So I disconnected. I lived from the neck up, numb, over-functioning, busy, busy, busy. And from the neck down, I treated my body like it was something to shrink or manage or ignore. This wonderful body that had served me so well my whole life. Some days I'd starve it. Other days I'd binge behind closed doors, eating until I felt sick and then hating myself for it. I avoided mirrors, or I obsessed over them. I'd weigh myself 5 times in one morning, try on outfits just to punish myself with how they didn't fit, or work out twice a day like I was trying to burn away the guilt. And no one saw it, because on the outside, I was composed, I was in control, even inspiring. People would say, "You're so disciplined," and I'd smile while silently falling apart, because it never was about food or fitness or clothing size. It was about shame, unspoken, unresolved shame that had nowhere else to go but my sweet little body. My grief didn't come out in tears. It came out in calorie counts, in late night binges, in the way I'd flinch when someone complimented me because I didn't feel worthy of the kindness, or compliment because I had manipulated my body. And I didn't have the language for it back then. I just knew I felt trapped inside a body I didn't trust, in a story I was too afraid to tell. And maybe that's you too. Maybe your body has become the battleground for a war your heart never processed. And maybe this is the first time someone's told you about this. You're not a failure. That's trauma. And here's the part no one ever explained to me. What I was going through, the restriction, the binges, the body hatred, wasn't just about willpower. It wasn't a character flaw. It wasn't even about the food. It was trauma. And unprocessed trauma lives in the body. And if it's never acknowledged, your nervous system will try to protect you in ways that don't always make sense. After my abortion, I didn't have a space to grieve. I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't even cry about it. I didn't even realize how much it had affected me. But my nervous system did. It knew something had happened, something big, something my heart didn't know how to hold. So my body stepped in. And this is where science comes in. But don't worry, I will keep it simple because there is so much science. When you go through something traumatic, especially something wrapped in secrecy, shame, or moral conflict, your brain sends signals from the amygdala to your nervous system, and it's registered as a threat. And in response, your body activates survival mode. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn. For me, it was control. Food, schedules, routines. If I could just manage everything, maybe I could stop myself from spiraling. Now for others, it looks like disconnection, tuning out, numbing, scrolling social media, detaching from their body altogether with activities, because it doesn't feel safe to be in your body anymore. And what I didn't know is that the part of my brain responsible for safety, the limbic system, was running the show. It didn't care about logic. It wasn't asking, is this reasonable? It was asking, how do we survive this? And one of the great teachers out there, a mentor I've studied with and I respect so much, Tony Robbins, says, the quality of your questions determine the quality of your life. So I was asking myself all the wrong questions, because the brain wants to give us an answer to what we ask it. So when we learn to design the questions on purpose that we're asking ourselves, like how great do I feel this morning when I wake up, things like that, it answers and it starts working on your behalf. But at that time, when the limbic system was running the show, again, I didn't ask, is this reasonable, Britt? I was asking, how do I live through this? And that behavior took me to a place where I almost didn't live through it. And at 39, I had a massive heart attack. So when I was asking, how do I survive this? The answer it came up with was control your body, distract from the pain, do anything but feel it. So I did. I didn't feel like I was in trauma, but my nervous system did. And the more I ignored it, the more those behaviors began to take root, until I couldn't tell where the pain ended and the coping began. Now, here's what I know now. Your body's not betraying you. It's just been carrying something you were never meant to carry alone or at all. And when I look back now, I can see it so clearly. My body became the battleground for a war my heart couldn't handle. And I didn't have the tools to process the abortion I chose. I didn't talk about it. I didn't grieve it. I just buried it deep. But grief doesn't stay buried. It finds places to hide and then surfaces, erupting like a volcano. And for me, it showed up in the mirror, in how I judged my reflection, in how I scrutinized every inch of myself like I was both the prisoner and the warden. Now, I have a confession to make, and I can't even believe I'm going to say this on camera. When I was 22, I found a plastic surgeon in San Francisco and made an appointment for a facelift. Now, this was decades ago, and the appointment was a discovery appointment, of course. And in retrospect, I think the poor man was trying very hard not to laugh at me. And sadly now, women in their 20s and 30s and getting all of these plastic surgery procedures, I have so much empathy for that. So luckily, he was a very ethical man and just said, young lady, come back in 40 or 50 years, right? And I'm sharing with you how torturous this was and how deceived I was. And then you start to see different things in the mirror, judging your reflection in such harsh ways. What do they call it now? Dysmorphia, right? So I scrutinized every inch of myself like I was both the prisoner and the warden. I started thinking my body was a problem, that if I could just change it, fix it, shrink it, maybe I'd feel whole again, like when I was a kid running through the streets playing tag with my friends. But the truth was my body wasn't broken. It was carrying the weight of my broken heart, and I started punishing it for remembering, because every curve, every softness, every part of me that reminded me that I was once pregnant, even for a short time, felt like a threat. So I disconnected. I stopped seeing my body as sacred, and instead it became something to manage and to correct. Looking back, I remember the punishing workouts, diets of deprivation, and control I exercised over my body like it owed me something for what I couldn't undo. And maybe you felt that too. Maybe you've caught yourself saying things like, I want a six-pack. I hate this stomach. I feel disgusting. I gotta get back in control. And you've got your skinny pants and your fat pants, different sets of clothing. Well, what if your body isn't the enemy? What if it's just the only place your pain has ever been allowed to speak? Because she was screaming. And here's the thing no one talks about. When we carry shame that hasn't been healed, we often take it out on the most visible part of ourselves, our body. Not because it's bad, because it's accessible, because it's ours, because it's the one thing we feel that we can control when everything else is chaotic. And unfortunately, my body became my target, not just of our pain, but of our penance. And when we try to earn back worthiness by controlling it, we try to shrink our presence to match the size of our regret. We treat physical suffering like it's somehow holy, like it'll atone for the choice we can't undo. It doesn't work. But please hear me. Your pain doesn't make you unworthy. And your body was never meant to carry the weight of your shame or any other feelings. It was meant to be lived in, not fought against. It was meant to be celebrated as a gift from God. And that cycle I spoke about that I lived in for years, I didn't even know. I didn't even really know why I was in it. It started with shame, not the kind of shame that's loud and obvious. Being caught stealing a candy bar or whatever. I could name a lot of other shameful things that we do. But I'm talking about the quiet, heavy kind that whispers, you messed up too badly and you're not worth loving anymore. This is just who you are now. You killed a baby. And because I didn't know what to do with that shame, I tried to control something, anything. So I turned to food, as I mentioned, or workouts, or routines, or perfectionism. Whatever made me feel like I had power over something when deep down I felt completely powerless. For a moment it would work. I'd feel in control again. Maybe I was redeeming myself. Like maybe if I suffered enough, I could earn my way back to feeling okay. But eventually I'd slip. I'd binge. I'd skip workouts. I'd stare at my reflection and feel disgusted. And of course I was living in the bikini capital of the world. That's when the next part of the cycle kicked in. Punishment. I was living in a self-imposed prison. I'd double down, I'd restrict harder, I'd push myself further, talk to myself like I was my own enemy. And then after all that effort, when I'd fail again, I'd be led right back to shame. And the whole cycle would start over again. Shame, control, slip, punishment, shame, repeat. It wasn't just physical, it was spiritual too. I thought I had to suffer, that maybe if I just stayed small enough, quiet enough, disciplined enough, God would forgive me. That if I kept hurting, it meant I was still sorry. That somehow my pain was proof that I cared. But here's the truth I wish someone had told me. Pain is not proof of repentance, and starving yourself is not sanctification. Shame is not a strategy for healing. That's not how God works. That's how shame works. That's how trauma works. That's how the enemy keeps you stuck, by making you think your punishment is holy, but it's not. Self-punishment doesn't lead to healing. It leads to exhaustion, disconnection, and a life where you're constantly trying to earn something that grace already gives you freely. And another woman that I admire deeply, a mentor to millions, Brene Brown, has a quote that I absolutely adore, which is, shame cannot survive empathy. And that's where we're going, empathy. That's part of the healing. So if you've been stuck in any of these cycles, I want you to hear me in the deepest way. You don't have to keep proving anything. You don't have to stay in pain to be forgiven. You don't have to shrink your body to atone for your past. And you don't have to punish yourself to be loved again. God isn't waiting for you to suffer. He's waiting for you to come home.